Hey, what's up guys? It's Gavin here. Today we're going to be continuing our genre studies series and looking at the blues. Now we're going to make a change of pace this week, and instead of just looking at the technicalities, the theory behind all of these changes and everything that we were doing with last week's jazz video, today we're just going to be focusing on feel. So don't worry about all the theory involved, don't worry about any of that stuff. We're just going to keep it simple and learn the basics from some of the blues masters. Now this is somewhat related to what we were doing last week with the jazz, as you can play the blues in jazz, or you can kind of get a jazzy sound in the blues. But right now we're just going to focus on the fundamentals. This is all about feel. So don't worry if you were lost with last week's technicalities and the theory behind all the changes. We're not going to worry about any of that right now. We're just going to worry about our phrasing, our groove, and the way that we feel the structure moving around and how we can play over it. So what does this really come down to? Well, mostly it's really what we would call our style. Style is going to be different whether we're playing lead or rhythm, or depending on what type of blues we're playing. But for the most part, this is going to apply to a shuffle or a slow blues. It can also be applied to a more upbeat blues. A lot of the stuff that I know is based off of watching guys like Stevie Ray, Jeff Healey, B.B. King, Josh Smith, Eric Gales, Jimi Hendrix, of course. So there's classic blues guys who also come in and play rock sometimes. So let's get started. Okay, first of all, what is a groove? It's basically just how you feel the music. If we're in the type of blues that's known as a shuffle, it sounds a little something like this. So a shuffle is really more of an upbeat kind of sound. You can also slow it down to get more of a laid back feel. But when it comes to playing rhythm over a shuffle, the biggest thing is you have to make sure that you're swinging. Now what is swinging? It ties kind of back into what we were talking about with jazz. It's the way that you feel the placement of the rhythms. The best way to learn this is really just to listen to a ton of blues and to listen to a ton of jazz, really. Big band swing jazz. Because the whole point is it's supposed to be something that's easy to understand, but that you can say a lot of things with. So I'm playing a blues in A. So how am I doing this? So the really important thing is just kind of getting that offset sound. So instead of going straight, as we call it, we want to feel almost like we've got a push and a pull. So we or even taking another rhythm, something much simpler like. What this does is it sets up a really good feel for the improvisation, or for the head that's being played over it. Now how do we play over a shuffle groove? Well really, for the most part, you can just play your standard blues licks, stuff like this. All that box one stuff that we've all learned from the pentatonic blues scale. If you want to get interesting, you can play major over the 1, minor over the 4, and you can kind of mess around over the 5. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about by those structures, go check out my last video where I talked about jazz structures, because the blues structure of a 12-bar blues is commonly found in jazz. So it's literally the same exact thing. So that's what I was doing in the intro clip that you saw. I was playing major over the 1 chord. If we're in A, that's A, major. And I was playing minor over the 4. I'm playing major over the 1 again. Then when we get to the 5, after we do that a couple times, if you want to, you can actually play the key of the 5. So in the key of A, that's an E major chord, dominant chord. In this case, I'm playing an E9, so we can just play an E major pentatonic. And then if we're going to go down a whole step, because that's what's happening when we go to our 4, to our D9, we can just play our D major pentatonic too and get those kind of tones. So when you put those two together, you've got this kind of walk down thing, even though you're literally playing the same exact licks if you want, just a whole step apart. And then we go back to our home key over the 1, which is A. So that's probably the easiest blues to play, which is just a shuffle. It's a medium tempo. You don't have to worry about getting crazy phrasing because it's not super slow, but you also don't need to worry about overloading speed because it's not super fast. Now we're going to move to a slow blues. So what I'm doing right there is I'm in A. I'm still playing a blues in A. The only difference is I'm making it a minor blues. So all I'm doing now is just making every one of those chords minor, with the exception of the 5, because you could make the 5 minor if you want to, or you can just make it dominant. It's up to you. You can mess with it as much as you want. Get the sound you want out of it. So I'm starting off with an A minor chord to set up, and I'm really trying to keep a really slow feel. It's going to have a lot deeper, more emotional impact if you really space it out. So that's why I'm kind of really taking it easy on the comping. So what that does is it leaves a lot of room to do a lot of interesting improvising on top. It also just draws a much more soulful emotion than playing something really busy. So now how do we improv over a slow blues? The easiest way to do it is to just play slower in a minor pentatonic. Now the thing about a minor blues is that really, if you just stay in minor the whole time, as opposed to switching back and forth between major and minor like we were before, it'll still sound fine, because all the chords are minor chords. But what makes it interesting is when you change the phrasing. What the phrasing is like the spacing and the time you have between the notes that you're playing. So let's give that a try. So what I mean by that is taking something like this, and instead of doing something that busy, bringing it down a level and getting a more meaningful sound out of it. Now that was literally 4 notes, but it had a lot more of an impact than just shredding crazy up and down the pentatonic. Another thing for the minor blues that's really effective is trying to really draw out those bends. Making these really stretched out will really start to pull your audience and make them really move with you. For example, instead of taking just a quick bend, maybe making something that's a little bit more accentuated. So I know my bending wasn't the greatest there, but it's just an example. So you can see by drawing it out, it really hangs on those. It gets a lot more of that sorrowful kind of deep vibe. So that works for playing a slow minor blues. Let's think about now playing more of an upbeat blues, more of a Stevie Ray style kind of rock blues, if that's what you want to call it. Something like Couldn't Stand the Weather. So you can see we're getting a lot busier, it's a lot more exciting, but the things to keep in mind, and the reason that I talked about a slow blues first, is that those same concepts of spacing and timing definitely still apply to a faster blues. Or we can do just a straight 12-bar blues. So you can see, even though we're playing a faster blues, we're still using those same concepts that we learned for the slow blues. And that's why I would recommend to everyone, learn to play the blues slowly before you learn to play them quickly. Because when you're starting out, if you're trying to learn all these changes really quickly and how to play over them, your mind is just going to explode. It's going to be an overload of information. Learn to play around the changes, get them solid, get it to the point where you're not even thinking about it anymore when you play the slow blues, then bring it into the fast blues and you'll be able to get through anything. So you could even see there, I was doing a lot of the same licks that I was doing in the slow blues, but I was changing the timing slightly, I was taking some space away. You know, all in all, I was trying to just convey a more energetic attitude through the guitar. But it's very important that we remember we have to keep that swing feel going, that push-pull, because if we kill that, we kill the whole groove, and everything is built on the groove. Now, how do I learn licks? The way that I do it is, honestly, I don't go out and say, okay, I'm going to learn 20 licks, I'm going to learn 30 licks. I don't do it that way. I just listen to a lot of music, and the truth is, a lot of the stuff that I play comes from Stevie, it comes from BB, it comes from Jimmy, it comes from a lot of the classic players that you just listen to a lot, because The truth is, a lot of these licks are almost identical that come from a lot of these different guys. It's just how they place them, how they end them, how they make one note sing or one other note sing that makes it interesting. So my point is, listen to as much music as you can of this type, of the blues, and pick out what you want to learn, and then try to figure it out by either looking up YouTube videos, looking up tabs, transcribing solos, but learn by hearing things that you like and that you want to reproduce. Because by doing that, you're ensuring that they will stay in your mind, stay in your fingers, stay in your lick vocabulary, as long as you're interested in that type of music. So there you have it. That's an introduction to the blues. Even if you don't like this kind of music, you should definitely listen to it. And really, it's because we can learn things like this, like phrasing, like timing, like spacing. Even if you're going to do something completely unrelated, you can still learn from this. And that's my running theme through a lot of these videos, is that whether you're learning jazz, blues, you want to be a singer-songwriter, you're just writing chords, things like that, it's helpful to understand all these different aspects of music making that go into something that sounds really successful, really unique, something that's really gets a point across. So that being said, that's just a start for what we can all learn from the blues. It gets so much deeper. There's an insane well of knowledge and information online, as well as just a million different things you can do with the blues that once you start to really dig into, you'll realize just how much more there is to it. But yeah, this is just meant to get you started. Go learn some licks, go learn some rhythms, listen to some leads, some solos that you like, try to move them around in different keys, listen to some riffs and some rhythms that you like, try to move them around in different keys and some chord comping. And most of all, try it in a bunch of different styles and speeds from a lot of different players. That's what's going to make you grow as a guitarist and as a blues player. So that's all for now. I'll see you next time.